we're ready to get going with the most important parts. So Sean, I'm going to turn this over to you, and you can talk to us about exhibiting professionalism at all times.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So before we get started, I think you can hear me okay. So over the last 18 months, we've discussed topics that cover the gambit of working in any profession: consulting, professional services, retail, hospitality, healthcare. It doesn't matter. All our topics are applicable because if you really boil them down, they come down to two things: treat other people as you would have them treat you, and be true to yourself. Our last pillar brings all these preceding discussions under a single umbrella: exhibit professionalism at all times. I was recently reminded by an experience at our office that different people have different perspectives of what professionalism means to them. They are established by everyone's own individual lifetime of experiences. However, in order to establish a consistent standard of customer experience within an organization, each must establish a set of norms. With this in mind, I thought I'd share my personal take on the building blocks of professionalism. First is knowledge. In this fourth age of industrialization, knowledge is the principal currency. What you know and how you apply it elevates a professional above a journeyman. Before you can apply knowledge, you must obtain it. Once achieved, it must be continuously maintained and developed. This requires a consistent and constant investment of time and dollars spent on classes, self-study, and mentorship, continuously honing your skills. Next is competency. This means having the skills needed and getting the job done. If you don't know how, admit it and get help. And by the way, it also requires that you master the ability to both say no and I don't know. Honesty and integrity. Keep your word and never compromise your values. Doing the right thing isn't always easy, but it's mandatory nonetheless. The next is accountability. Hold yourself accountable for your words, actions, and thoughts, and be willing to be held accountable by others. Always be mindful of your thoughts, as today's thoughts becomes tomorrow's words, and those words will eventually show up in your actions. Next is respect. Professionalism must have and show respect for themselves and for others. This requires authenticity, humility, gratitude, and a calm, business-like manner. This doesn't mean haughtiness or a sense of self-importance. Rather, it should be a manifestation of emotional intelligence. In other words, be polite and kind, using good manners with everyone you meet. Appearance. For me, professionalism also requires that you look the part. Again, it isn't a form of superiority, but rather confidence. It's a demonstration of a mindfulness by dressing and grooming appropriately for each situation. While it was Shakespeare who wrote, "Apparel oft proclaims the man," it was Mark Twain who best translated this for the American audience. He said, "Clothes makes a man." Naked people have little or no influence on society. And then for me last, a respect for God anchors everything I do and try to be. My faith and the teachings I learned through church and family form the bedrock of my life of service. The principles you choose to embody in your daily life is your choice. For me, these make up the foundation of how I try to conduct myself every day, both at work and at home. I hope you found this insightful. If you have any questions or want to share your insights, please let us know. We'd love to hear your thoughts and your suggestions. Sherry, back to you.
Thanks, Sean. It's been a long run. I'm going to miss having you here every month.
Will do. It's been a lot of fun.
Okay, so let me get the introductions in. Sean, of course, as you just heard from, he is a co-founder of CS3. He's our EVP of all things great. He's our chief chaos wrangler, but most importantly, he's the king of analogies, as you'll hear in his session today. Sean introduced these 18 pillars to our firm over 10 years ago after attending a training session with Ed Class. Joining Sean is Rhonda Six. who is our biggest cheerleader. She's been a CS3 advocate for years and years. She's been with us for about a year now, but this is her second go-round with us. She loved us so much that she just had to come back after a 10-year exploration of her career with other firms. It's been probably 15 years ago since I first met her, and I learned what a great company CS3 was from Rhonda at an educational event that we were both at. She was just singing the praises then, and she still does today. Then our last person that's joining Sean is Linda Hollingsworth. Gary and Sean, although they think they're the owners, they know that Linda is the one that's really the boss. As our project manager, she makes sure that everyone on the implementation knows where they're supposed to be, what they're supposed to have ready. Not only that, she does the same thing for all of our clients. She makes sure that all the projects come across the finish line and that they just don't take a knee at the 5-yard line. Boss, coach, whatever you want to title you want to give her, you can bet that she's going to keep life straight for all of us. So Sean, let me pass controls over to you guys. I'm going to let you make you presenter.
Very good.
And if you'll just share your screen.
Awesome. Can you see my screen okay?
I can. It's perfect.
I'll move this little bar out of the way so it doesn't get in our way. Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, with that, let's go and get started. So as Sherry pointed out, 18 months is a long time to talk about any subject, even one as integral to an organization as our 18 pillars are to us. As Sherry stated, we're going to spend some time discussing how we've seen these behaviors put into action, and we thought it'd be a good capstone to our series. Again, as Sherry pointed out, I've asked Linda and Rhonda, a couple of my partners in crime, to spend some time today kind of talking about how they've seen these behaviors put into action. We're going to talk about a whole gambit of stories, everything from how we've seen this happen at work, how we've seen this happen at home or with family, and even how we've seen it happen with some friends, both professionally and personally. So with that, Rhonda, you out there?
I am here.
Excellent. How about you, Linda? You ready to go?
I'm ready to go.
Woohoo! All right. Well, let me go ahead and take us right into the very first one. I'm going to talk about a guy I know by the name of Ed Kless. Let's see if I get my screen up. There we go. So I'm going to talk about two guys, Ed Kless and Tim Rodman. So let's start off with Ed Kless. There are two folks here on the screen. That's Ed and Ron Baker. Ed's the guy in the pinstripe seersucker suit and at the piano. Ed works for Sage Software. When I first got to meet Ed, he actually had been hired by Sage to help grow and develop the partner channel at Sage Software. All their sales were done through partners. They didn't actually have direct salespeople, and we, folks like us at CS3, were responsible for moving all their product. And they decided there's two ways to do that, either get more people on board to sell product or to improve the quality of the people they had on board to be able to move product and do a better job professionally, etc. It was their way of actually improving their channel and improving the quality of their product delivery to their customers. So Ed came into that, and Ed has been just an anchor stone for CS3, for me personally and for the firm, insofar as helping us grow and improve over the last 15, 20 years. Since Ed came on board and we got connected up with Ed, we have made just a huge number of changes inside of our practice relating to how we deliver services. He's helped us with project management. Linda is indirectly associated or can directly associate her job to recommendations from Ed. How we price, how we deliver products, how we deliver services, all has to do with some suggestions that Ed has at least had some kind of voice in. So not only was that Ed's job that he was brought in to do, but Ed takes that very much further than that. So Ed grabs hold of that. He not only does teaching for Sage, for their partners, he also is associated with the Information Technology Alliance. He's associated with the Strategic Leadership Alliance, and he's associated with several other organizations. He's also on a podcast, and that's what this screenshot you see here is from. It's an organization called the Soul of Enterprise. These two guys, Ed and Ron, get together every Friday and do a 1-hour podcast where they talk about everything under the sun relative to how to run a business, how to improve their business, and how to do pricing. They love the concept of pricing. They hate cost-plus pricing. If Ed could have one thing, one major achievement in life, it would be to remove the timesheet from every professional organization in the world. So in addition to Ed is Tim Rodman. Now, Tim I met kind of through social media and just kind of watching him. Tim is a CPA. He worked for a public accounting firm, a national public accounting firm for several years. Left there, went into the consulting business, left there and went to work for a customer. And if the customer he's working with was using a Sage product, the Sage 500, and he was very deep into that and doing a lot of reporting, but he wanted to continue to kind of grow his professional experiences and to kind of grow his overall knowledge. And he had heard some stuff about a product called Acumatica, and it was a SaaS-based product. So he took it upon himself to start learning Acumatica on his own at night and on weekends. Now, this guy's married, he has kids, he has got family time, etc., but this is how he spends part of his time just growing his knowledge. But not only did he grow his knowledge personally, but he decided he was going to blog what he was learning as he went through the process. So for a period of 4 years, he studied Acumatica, he learned Acumatica, and he posted a blog every week about what he learned that week, what he applied to, etc. He worked at that for so long that eventually he left his employer and went to work for Acumatica for about 1.5 years. In that process, he went ahead and started the, what you can see here on the screen is the Acumatica user group for him. This is self-funded and self-driven by Tim. It's his way of kind of helping the Acumatica channel. He no longer works for Acumatica. He works for another company, but he continues the Acumatica forum and is often a speaker for Acumatica and is a huge advocate for Microsoft Power BI. So these two guys are the epitome of people who engage in knowledge transfer. It's not just what they do. It's not just part of their job. It's actually more a matter of almost like a religious belief. It's part of their ethos. They do it as their job, and they also do it as fun on times on the side. So with that as a start, Linda, you want to talk to me a little bit about Simha?
I'd love to. And by the way, I've met both of those gentlemen. They're wonderful people to know in business. Simha, now I want to say I have had the fortune of working with many companies, and many of you that may be on the call, I've thought of you. You could have fit in any of these categories. In this particular one, I was thinking of Simha. I also want to call out MTM Recognition for the same qualities that they brought forward as Simha did. In honor of the Olympics, I'm going to give Simha my Mr. Rogers Award to also honor the 50th anniversary of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Fred Rogers, you remember Fred? He has a quote that he shared in his book. When I was a boy, I'd see scary things in the news, and my mother would say to me, "Look for the helpers. You'll always find people who are helping." So that positive attitude is something that Simha, and particularly Jeremy Andrews, brought to the table. You may remember, Sean and Rhonda, when I kick off a project, I like to show the project reality graph. That's that graph that kind of shows moving from a positive attitude throughout, and you might flip the slide there, Sean. I think that's the next one. There it is. When you move from starting the project and you fall into that trough of disillusionment where you're a little frustrated about whether or not you understand the product, your expectations of the product, all combined with your workload. So you move through that trough of disillusionment on the way to the slope of enlightenment and the plateau of productivity. Well, this is classic. We see it all the time in projects, and how clients move through this is key. So if you can back up to that previous slide, Sean, know when you're in over your head. It takes a lot to raise your hand and say, there's a knowledge gap, and I need help. getting through it. I don't know what I don't know. So the challenge of raising your hand when there are problems and letting the team know, communicating within your team that it's okay to do that is key. Daryl likes to say, Daryl Scott, one of our terrific consultants, likes to say, don't suffer in silence. And Simha really exemplifies knowing when they're in over their head, raising their hand, and working with us to bring them along. The other aspect of that, and you'll have to flip through a couple of the next slide there, is communication. And by the way, did you know that this is the 50th anniversary also of the 911 phone service that started in Alabama. So we've got a couple of 50th anniversaries I'm honoring today. But communication, the foundation of feeling like you can communicate with a consultant on your project or in your team is trust. And we've worked with Simha since 2006. We have the luxury of having established a long-term relationship built on trust. But they came to the project with the courage to be transparent. A team that was willing to share their needs and experience, whether we were challenging in how we were approaching it or they were encountering challenges, we both approached it with openness and trust. And for that, they stand out in my mind with my Mr. Rogers Award.
So, Sherry, you pointed out that I am the master of analogy. I just want to point out that I now want to label Linda as the queen of trivia. Trivia and factoids. That's just awesome.
Yeah. We'll give her that.
I definitely want her on my team.
A game night? Absolutely.
Yes.
All right. We'll explain more about that, folks, in a little bit. But Ronnie, you want to take us to our next one?
Sure. Communicate is a really good point here because that's one of the things that I think about when I think of my interactions with Dr. Hart. This is Dr. Charles Hart. He is the Director of HR and Safety, NAFTA at BS&B Safety Systems, and he's one of the best communicators I've ever had the pleasure to know or to work with. He conducts every action and communication with absolute professionalism. Of course, he is by education a psychologist, but by trade, he's a human resources professional as the Director of HR and Safety for the entire Western Hemisphere for BS&B. And, of course, most HR professionals are often very deliberate in their communication styles, but I've never known anyone other than Dr. Hart to embody this so perfectly. Every email, letter, phone call, meeting, and presentation was always well documented, both before and after the fact. He never accepted shortcuts, including abbreviations in your written communication. Everything was spelled out completely, leaving no room for misinterpretation. And as our HR clients know, misinterpretation can often be the worst part of dealing with employee relations. Dr. Hart has such a calm demeanor that he affected everyone in his presence. He could set you at ease in the most uncomfortable situations. His actions made you know that he cared. And talk about someone who is focused on delivering value in every interaction. Dr. Hart invested in me to ensure I was growing and learning every day. I would go to him with questions, to which he always responded with questions, which sounds like a psychologist, I'm sure. But the conversation would continue until I was satisfied that I was headed in the right direction. And sometimes this took longer than if he had just given me the answers. But his focus was to ensure that I knew I had the tools or the answers all along. And the best part is he did all of this without me even realizing what was happening until it was over. On a side note, to pick up on some of Linda's trivia, Dr. Hart is a rock collector, and his employees from all over the world knew about it. And they would bring him rocks from all of their travels, from their homes abroad when they had to come to the local office for business. And to me, that represented that people appreciated his professionalism and his caring nature and the way that he invested in his employees. And of course, one of the best parts of working with him were all the dad jokes, because that became a workplace competition. And
Dad
everyone,
joke?
yes, dad jokes. The dad jokes that, people would come in and tell him jokes, and then he would turn around and give them one. One of his favorites was, what is Beethoven's favorite fruit?
I don't know.
A banana.
Yeah, let's not repeat those.
Have you been? Has he been swapping jokes with Gary or my partner?
Possibly so.
Nobody can carry out a joke
Possibly
like
so.
Gary.
They are definitely Gary Crouch jokes as well. So.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. I don't know how to follow up on that one. So we'll just move on along, Linda.
Well, that is quite a lead-in. I'll tell you the next one, Pioneer Telephone. And this is their old building, but I'm focusing on buildings here, it would seem. For Pioneer, I award them my Sleeping Beauty Award for the longest testing phase. Did you know that Disney, here's another factoid, Disney took 7 years in production to finish Sleeping Beauty from 1951 to 1958, which is an amazing amount of time, isn't it, Sean?
Yeah, but she was worth the wait.
Yeah, and so was Pioneer. They came into the project looking for improvement to their existing processes. So with that looking for improvement, they came in with complex customizations. They had a legacy time system they needed to migrate over to a new one. They had access databases and Excel spreadsheets, and they had something called Bass Spread. And Sean, it is not a fish spread for crackers, trust me.
Oh.
It was Bass Spread might have eaten our lunch had it not been for the team there that was constantly looking to improve their process. And rather than expecting us to do the fishing for them, they would sit there learning to fish. All right, I'm going to hang on to that fish theme going through here, because they knew that they were the ones that were going to have to take it forward and live with the system that they produced, always looking for improvement. You know what Jim likes to say, Jim Scheitauer, another one of our great consultants, payroll is easy. It's all the exceptions. And that's the truth here. Payroll at its core was fine, but boy, they needed to take it to a whole new level. And with that, taking admin tasks seriously. Melody at Pioneer really knew how to do this. Her whole team, really thorough testing. Frankly, I lost count of the number of parallels that they ran, but that all is to speak to their attention to detail. Melody would come, get a load of this, Melody would come into my status meetings with her own summary status report, which was great, because it consolidated her thoughts. If we didn't have a meeting, she was Johnny on the spot with the status of what was completed and what was to come. Very definitely my Sleeping Beauty Award, and what a beauty of a team they were.
You know, you're talking about Melody showing up ready for work and having status meetings or status documents pulled together. Let me tell you a little bit about Pixius. Now, Pixius is a company up in Wichita, Kansas. They provide wireless telecommunication services to folks who can't get cable or a DSL or any other kind of a wired connection. They're kind of that last mile resource for those folks in rural Kansas and Missouri and even into Arkansas. So the company's owned by Jay. And Jay is a really, really smart cookie. And he's smart not only just on his own, but he's smart and then he surrounds himself by some really fabulous people. People like Timothy Coppinger. Christy Womack and Troy Vars. So, I've been doing consulting for a very, very long time. And I've worked on a lot of implementations. I've done a lot of training sessions, and I have seen a lot of people pick things up really slowly, and I've seen some people struggle. But I've never, ever had an experience like I did at Pixius. So after we installed a new piece of software there, Acumatica, we held our first training session, and we went over like we normally did. We went over, I think, the General Ledger module, covered the details, went through the regular training class like we normally did. They consumed that, and then came back and said, well, do you have the manuals that we're going to cover for the next several modules? And I said, yes. And so I sent them those manuals, and knowing a little bit about them, I sent them out some other documentation, etc. When it came time for our next class, we started to go into the same process, or let me phrase that. I started going to that same process, and they stopped me about 2 minutes into it and said, well, Sean, would you mind if we just kind of stop right here? We've already read the training guides. We've already done the sample transactions. We've read through most of the help documentation online. And we've gone through and watched some videos that Acumatica has out there. So we kind of have the basis of how to set the module up and how to run transactions through. Can we just talk about, instead of spending the time going through all of that, can we spend this next several hours going through how we tailor the tool to our needs? We'll talk a little bit about what our requirements are and what the system does, and figure out how we tailor that in. Linda, I've never had anybody that prepared for a training class or for a status meeting ever. Not even within our own team, when we actually roll things out internally. I've never had anybody get that far ahead of the training and ready to not only just talk about what the material that they've already covered is, but how they want to apply it and work it into their practice. Yeah,
talk about your advanced placement student, right? They
oh my goodness,
are the epitome of advanced placement classes here.
Absolutely, and Christy does an awesome job in documenting their current processes. Troy does a great job of digging under the covers to figure out how the software works, and has actually found a couple of we'll just call them undocumented features that the publisher has left into the software, found them, and actually found workarounds to submit it into to the publisher so they could get those things resolved. Timothy had a really huge job in front of her when she got started. And it just took a huge amount of work to do to get a lot of their other systems caught up and in place. The other thing they do that is really impressive is not only do we do our status meetings, keep track of where we are in conjunction with them, but they do status meetings internally. Troy and Christy pull these together. Timothy runs them and essentially keeps their entire management team up to date and up to speed on where things are within the project and what's next for everybody else. So I don't know. I don't have any awards to give other than just the dumbfound Sean award when he walked in and with his mouth hanging wide open when they wanted to jump right past the training session, and they've already done all the studying on their own.
Well, so, that in and of
Sean,
itself
I think
is
that's
quite
the
an
Proud
award.
Daddy Award.
It's the what award?
The Proud Daddy. I would say just making Sean dumbfounded is an award in and of itself.
Oh my
gosh. Or to make him speechless.
Well, you just did.
Speechless. How about you? You're working with Arkansas Glass, Rhonda. I know they're an amazing team.
They are, and so I'll just pick up from right here and start by saying that if you don't know it yet, I am a people person, and I can wholeheartedly say that I really enjoy the clients I get to work with, and enjoy getting to know them while we're working together. Most recently, I've been working closely with Luann Sutton at Arkansas Glass on their migration, and my experiences with her make me think of someone who always projects a positive attitude. If there is work to be done between meetings, she does what she can and then lets me know about any roadblocks she encounters so that we can work to resolve them prior to our next meeting. And when things don't go as planned, she communicates that with me as well. You know, Linda, it's the work that Luann and our other clients do on these projects that make all of us, including the clients, look good on your status calls. So no matter what happens in our setup or our parallel processing, Luann is definitely a glass half full person, which is only appropriate because she does work at a glass company.
Yeah, I agree. That team is
Oh,
great.
that was a bad pun.
That was a
Oh
It just
my.
sweet
threw itself
pun.
at me.
All right, awesome. So let me talk to you guys a little about uh, advanced industrial devices. Now, this is a story actually related to me by Michelle Taylor. She was going to join us also, but she's doing some traveling today and couldn't do this from 50,000 feet on the air on an airplane. So she asked me to chat a little bit about Larissa at AID. So when Larissa first came on board at AID about a year and a half, 2 years ago, one of her first jobs was to take a look at their sales process at AID and look at how they were taking advantage of a CRM product, Sage CRM, that they had tried to implement on their own. They took a look at their methodologies, and Larissa very quickly recognized that standardization of their processes would help them make their salespeople more effective and more efficient. So she went through and started documenting their current processes, talked to a number of different people inside, looked at all the different methodologies they're using, and helped them come together with a single methodology that everybody should follow. They then called us in, and we implemented or re-implemented the CRM to support those processes that Larissa, with their salespeople and with our team, helped put together to, again, support those processes, support those systems, and make the methodology that the salespeople were following more consistent. That is always kind of a nice thing in general, but in this case, that resulted in a threefold increase in productivity by their salespeople. They found themselves doing 3 times more calls into customers. They found themselves finding 3 times the number of leads and closing 3 times the number of deals. So it really greatly impacted their bottom line by hitting their top line and increasing throughput. So after that process, Larissa turned around and was walking through the warehouse one day and chatting with one of the warehouse managers and realized that one of the gentlemen in the warehouse is spending 1 to 2 days a week, every week, week over week, pulling together information from Sage 100 and from Sage CRM to get an idea of what their current demand was in the warehouse for production, what their future demand was going to be based upon outstanding orders and outstanding opportunities, looking at potential close rates, and using all that information to help do a little MRP forecasting of demand and looking at where they were from an inventory standpoint. So Larissa, seeing that and looking for ways to improve, chatted with him, then came back to us, told us what was going on, and together the 3 of us worked together to take a look at that process. And we went in, took a look at it, realized and identified where that information is coming from, automated that information extraction, and took his 1 to 2 day process down to a 5-minute process. So not
Wow,
only
that's
did he
phenomenal.
so not only did he take it could he get the information more timely and more quickly, he was able to now get it much more frequently. So instead of working all day for 2 days to get it and then applying it that week, he got down to a point now where he can run that every day to continually refine where he is. That has resulted in a decrease in his on-hand inventory, which decreases the capital investment the company makes, which frees up capital to invest in other areas. So that's 2 situations where Larissa was constantly looking for ways to improve current processes and then going in and after doing it, demonstrating the success of those processes throughout the organization to the various people inside the organization. So Larissa, if you're out there, way to go. I'm going to give you the Overachiever Award. That is awesome, and constantly watching out for ways to improve.
Yeah, that's a terrific story and just emphasizes the importance of our clients looking internally for improvement. As much as we would love to be the ones to find those improvements, it really often needs to come from the team that's working with us because they live it and breathe it every day. They'll know where the pain is.
We come in and we slay the dragons, but they have to maintain the kingdom on an ongoing basis, right?
That's right. That's right. And speaking of kingdoms, I think I'm up next. Brown and Fortunato. They're a law firm in Amarillo. And speaking of lawyers, okay, so Sean, I called my neighbor's son the other day. He's a lawyer. Called him up with some legal questions. So I asked him, how much would you charge for answering 3 simple questions? And he replied, $1,000. I go, $1,000? I mean, that's really expensive, isn't it? And he said, yeah, it certainly is. And then, now, what's your 3rd question? And I just hung up the phone. I couldn't even. I was afraid I was going to get an invoice.
She has definitely been hanging out with Gary too long.
Okay, so Brown and Fortunato, by the way, right there in the front and center of the building in which they office, guess who that is? Fictional.
That's the mighty Mudville 9.
That is the mighty Mudville, mighty Casey at the bat. Who would have thunk it? I had to go search and find out who that was. You should have seen me searching for that. But at Brown and Fortunato, project lead is Nicole Shannon and her whole team. I give them my Little Engine That Could award for their optimism and their hard work. When we started, they were outsourcing their payroll. They also had spreadsheets to track internally, you know, keeping up with certain numbers. They had no central PTO tracking. They had no employee visibility into their data, and they were buying a lot of modules. They needed to automate the whole show: HR, payroll, ESS, HR actions, Sage Time, benefits enrollment, alerts. They had it all. And through the whole process, the first and foremost was Nicole and her team spending money like it's her own, very carefully seeking to gain as much value out of every module as possible. You know, sometimes it's those small wins that you get along the way rather than waiting for the big explosive success at the end. You know what I'm talking about, Rhonda? When you've got to kind of work your way through gradually adding functionality.
And those are the things that help us keep plugging day by day, right? Because if we wait on those explosive successes, could be a long time.
It can be a long time coming, and they can miss the mark. But Nicole and her team were really steady and methodical. Every module very logical, addressed in a sequential fashion, well, not unlike attorneys, I suppose, which, by the way, I also give her my next pillar award with the knowing her audience, namely the attorneys for which she would. Now, Sherry, you told me, you know, Nicole ought to know her audience. She's married to one of them.
Exactly.
But she knew exactly what they needed. She knew what they would want to do. She knew what they wouldn't want to do. What they were willing to invest in terms of their time and their money. So coming into that project, managing the money like it's her own, knowing her audience, Nicole and her team get my Little Engine That Could award for their outstanding optimism and hard work.
Awesome. So, Linda, you didn't think I would get all the way through this without doing a little bragging on at least one of my kids, right? So you talked about daddies. I'm a bit of a proud daddy myself, and so I'm going to talk about one of them. And I'm not going to talk about Philip. I'm going to be nice. I'm going to talk about one of them. So Philip, my social media marketing son, is off the hook today, but Timothy is on the spot, and I'm going to probably embarrass the heck out of him here, but doesn't matter. So Timothy recently took a new job at a restaurant called Smoke down on 15th Street here in Tulsa. Smoke wasn't at the time looking for a new chef. They were going to be in the next 6 months, but when Timothy became available, they dropped everything and reached out to him. As a matter of fact, he was on his way, moving back from New York to Tulsa, and he was on the drive from New York when Eric Reynolds gave him a call and chatted with him about coming to work. So Eric Reynolds, the executive chef at Smoke, was planning to open a new restaurant in a bedroom community of Tulsa, and they've actually broken ground now, and they'll be opening inside the next 6 to 7 months. But knowing that Timothy was going to be available, it was his statement to Timothy was, I know it's early. I've gone to the board and told them I don't care if it's early. I don't care if it's 6 months. We're not going to have another opportunity come along like this anytime soon, and we won't be able to find anybody this quality. So they went ahead and hired him. But that's not the bragging part. That sounds like it, probably is, but that's not the bragging part. But they knew what he could do. They knew he could kind of manage the kitchen. They knew he could help with hiring kitchen staff. They knew he could help with training. They knew he could help with the menu, maintaining the menu, improving the menu, etc. But what they didn't know was Timothy's business acumen and business knowledge, his ability to both systemize and to document procedures. So in the 6 months he's been on board, he's helped actually develop hiring procedures, documented the menu editing process. He has actually documented every one of their signature dishes as recipes within the kitchen. He's outlined kitchen staff onboarding documentation. That's just to name a few. It got to be such a point that he and I were chatting during on his birthday last month, and he said that he went to a staff meeting where Eric was there and one of the owners, and they're walking through, and it was for all the for the management team, and they're walking through and giving assignments to each member of the team, and they chat with person one and say, okay, well, I need you to work on this over the next week or two. This is your time frame. This is what the deliverable needs to look like, and let me know if you need help. But this is what I want to be working on. That they went through each one of the members of management till they came to Timothy, and when they came to Timothy, they said, so Tim, we don't have anything for you. You seem to already have your agenda. We love what you're putting out. It's coming out faster than anything we could ever expect. So you just keep doing what you're doing. Let us know what we can do to help or how we could get out of your way to make it go more efficiently. You just keep trucking, and we're just thrilled for whatever you're doing. So again, that's where the proud daddy thing comes in. Anytime somebody sits back and says, you're ahead of the game, you're driving the way this thing is supposed to work. So in my mind, this is a kid who's shown up. He's in his late 20s. He's under-promising and over-delivering and constantly focusing on delivering value. And in that, by delivering everything he told him he'd do and delivering more, he's done a great job of protecting his integrity throughout. So again, I couldn't go without bragging a little bit. So Tim's the rascal here that you see with the headband on. This is when he was with a previous restaurant a few years ago. He was in a cooking competition for a charity event where it's kind of like the Iron Chef event. And this is where he was actually making ice cream without an ice cream freezer. No freezers, no churning or anything else. It was ice cream inside of 2 minutes using liquid nitrogen. Thought it took a pretty cool picture.
Yeah, there for a minute I thought it was Fred Nye, the science guy, going, but it's Tim.
It looks like me baking a cake with all the smoke everywhere.
Yeah. Last time I flipped on a mixer, it looked just like that, but it had nothing to do with smoke. It was just flour. You're supposed to add some stuff to that before you hit the mixer with. So all the way through this, ladies, we talked about 16 of the 18 pillars. We've missed 2. So I'm going to talk about the next one. That's being authentic. You know, and authenticity, the reason it's come down to the end is it's really hard to truly be authentic as to who you are, to stay true to who you are as you're going through, et cetera, and as you're doing work, and to always express how you feel about things without being emotional. So while doing that, I thought the best way to do that is just kind of share that I think we as a firm here at CS3 does an awesome job of being who we really are, whether it's Gary playing around with dinosaurs or Sherry with her earrings and her doodles during our company retreats. And Rhonda, I love that picture your son's doing from his finger pose. I'm cracking up.
Oh, they're crazy.
Oh, they are, truly. You know, and obviously, I'll do anything to make a buck for charity, for Tour de Cure, including wearing a tutu and a coconut bra in the rain. So nothing's off the shelf when we're helping out, or Lynn and I being focused when we're trying to take pictures during our shopping season, during the Christmas season, collecting toys for tots. So
Yeah, there was another one, though, too, that we didn't touch on.
we did. You want to talk to me a little bit about
Stay clear of politics. Yeah, there's a reason that didn't come to our mind. Thank heavens. Our clients are really good at insulating the project from whatever politics may be going on. Hopefully we are too, from insulating our clients from any politics that may be going on. But that's the key. When projects are underway or any of our activities, and sometimes politics come up, the more that we can insulate a project from that so that it can keep moving, the team can stay focused, the better it is. So hats off to every one of our clients for your help in enabling us to finish our projects and not getting bogged down walking that line of politics.
Awesome. So, Sherry, that's kind of it for us. We've kind of hit on all 18 service pillars. We've hit a lot of stories and talked a lot about clients and family and friends, and even about ourselves. Poked fun at a few people, given a few crazy new awards. But I think that, in all honesty, as far as awards, we do have this book in paperback, and I think we're going to be sending this back out to all of the people we talked about this time around, and we really appreciate all of you for everything you've done. And Sherry, I'll let you take it over from here.
Thank you all very much. Man, that was just a great presentation. You know, as you guys went through each one of those, I was not the least bit surprised at the names that came up. I've had the pleasure of working with every one of those nominations except for Arkansas Glass. And so going through the process with them of helping them do their selection, I saw those same qualities that you all highlighted. I had a bunch more that I would have added to that list, and I know we just had a short amount of time, but thank you guys. That was just terrific, and thanks to our customers for being so great. And Sean is right. For all of you that were mentioned today, we will have an autographed copy of Gary's book, Sean's partner, on the 18 service pillars. So those will go out here in the next week or two. Just a little bit of wrap up. Our business is continuing to grow with the referrals that we get from alliance partners and from you, our clients. We have all had that experience while working with a vendor or customer where you just know that something is wrong with their systems, that something's lacking. Maybe it's because the documents they give you are wrong, or you had to enter information twice, or it's not timely. And we'd like to know about those people to see what we can do to help them. So if you know of a business associate or a vendor, a customer, or maybe even a personal friend that could benefit from our services, we'd like to thank you with a $500 gift to be paid to you, your firm, or a charity of your choice. The details of this fabulous program can be found on the website under your Client Service Center down at the bottom of the page. Bruno Tellis has one more presentation coming up here in February, and then we're rolling into our March activities. Sean's going to be at 90 Minds, an organization of Sage 100 consultants, and then Michelle is also going to be at that same conference addressing the latest and greatest on Sage 100. In April, the MGMA, or the Medical Group Management Association, has asked us to present 4 sessions at their 2-day conference. We're really excited about that. We'll be speaking about millennials in the workplace, financial measurement and management for medical practices, leadership, and employee retention. So if you're in the medical industry, I encourage you to pop over to their website and register for that event. If you are looking for a professional speaker, we have plenty on staff that can discuss leadership, business development, human capital, social media, and of course, any current technology issues. We have some great presentations as we move into 2018. I do want to point out that the CS3 employees will be having our retreat tomorrow, Friday, and Saturday. We will be monitoring email, but you may experience a little bit of delay in response, so we appreciate your patience. Our March presentation is all about ERP and those nagging questions that you have. Then in April, we've got a great session on payroll and HR, and we're going to be showing the differences and the great features of two of our favorite products. For all of our Serve Access Plan clients, today's session has been recorded. You'll find the recordings and the slide deck at CS3 University. If you are not on a Serve plan, then please contact Ethan Kearns. If you want to keep up to date on all the CS3 upcoming events and topics, our social media team has the info flowing, so take a moment and follow us at CS3 Technology. If you have more questions about today's presentation, we'll also be tracking those on Twitter, so feel free to use hashtag CS3 SmartTalks. And lastly, don't forget to complete that survey, and with that, we thank you so much for your time.